Good evening, Africans. Dialectic and historical materialism. Historical is your cultural origin. Further, we can go back into our civilization of our history. It must be examined where it becomes historical materialism. Then we can go into dialectic and historical materialism. That is to say, we can discuss the materialism in which we're talking upon, whether it's political, economic, social, religious concepts, everything that affects us as a people. We got to be able to discuss it and struggling to come to some critical understanding and agreement and moving forward. Moving forward to constant to see the need of our people to join some organization fighting for our liberation and freedom. And if we liberated and free already, then why we got all these different organizations saying they fighting for the peoples of Africa in the U.S., anywhere else in the world, if we are free? We wouldn't be having that discussion as a free person. We be talking about where we're going to put the next hospital at, you know, where we're going to build the next university at. We'll be talking about something that is necessary for our development as a people to move forward into scientific socialism. Because that's what the discussion is going to be in dealing with dialectic and historical materialism and dealing with our history, dealing with our culture, dealing with our economic system, dealing with our agriculture system, dealing with all of our systems in Africa. Because that would make up your culture. And you keep working on these different elements to even refine them to make it better, quicker. You know, it's just like if you've been doing something constant for 10 years, when you started doing it, you know, it might take you 2 weeks to do it. But as you go on, you know, now you can do it in 2 minutes because you've been doing it for so long, you organized to do it. And that's the way we must become an organization. You know, the All African People Revolutionary Party, you know, who really taught me and gave me some understanding of struggle and understanding the process of revolution and liberation, is that we had different committees in our organization. And these different committees were formed to make up how you run a government and learning how to run a government by having responsibility, by being on committees, by having committee structure inside the organization. You know, and all organizations have a committee structure. I will hope, and that's what is involved in learning the people how to set up and run a government, because that's what we must come to do. We must come set up, run our government, our African government. And Marcus Garvey said, "Where's our president? You know, who's gonna be the spokesperson for Africa people? Who's our Secretary General, appointed by the Central Committee of the People?" Now, no president that imperialism them picked to get up there to control the people and steal and rob and rape and murder the people for the benefit of capitalism and imperialism and neocolonialism. And let me not forget Zionism. Oh, it's your profit. Just like they profit from racism. You know, you think about how much money they make just off of that concept. Black Lives Matter. Once you put on a T-shirt, what it really is. All over the world, African life matters. And we can see ourselves as a people, one people, African people. I don't care where we are, in Germany, anywhere in Europe, Spain, France, Italy, don't make no difference. Poland, don't make no difference where we at. Caribbeans in the Caribbean, in the U.S. and Canada, everywhere. Why we can't start saying what we stood short pushing this particular line is that African lives matter. Then we'll see how many Europeans jump on that bandwagon and run with that bandwagon. Concept, a theory. And we need to start pushing that theory to see the reality of the theory. African lives matter. Because, when you say black lives matter, you don't really tied to no land. You're just tied to a color. You don't tied to no culture. You're just tied to a color. You don't tied to no origin. You're just tied to a culture. And I'm an African. I got a culture, organ, civilization. I got a history. Before anything was used like that for a color. Not just no color. Everybody have a complexion. We're African people. And we need to start claiming that we are an African people and nothing else. Not an African this, not an African that. Just pushing the concept. What it gonna cost you to say, I'm an African. Hey, African, how you doing? Hey, Queen, how you doing today? Brother gonna say the other day that all of us wasn't kings, all of us wasn't queens. You ain't if you didn't see yourself as a one. Even if you don't see yourself as one today, you're not now. So you ain't a king, so you must be somebody flunk it in. If you're not a king is one that have knowledge to organize their people to accomplish whatever we are involved in at that time. A king show leadership. King stand before his people, with his people, and beside his people. So I don't know what stop you from being a king. You worry about a crown on top of your head or a chair you sit in. That's more important than you coming together for your people to be free. I will hope not. Please. And then talking about all our sisters ain't queen. Which one of them ain't no queen? Yo. All our sisters are queens. And they need to carry themselves as queens. And then they need to go back into historical materialism and study our queens in Africa. That's what I'm asking our queens to do throughout the world right now. Study our African queens. They look at they government in which they had set up and participated in. See what kind of armies and positions that they had during this time of our culture in Africa before the coming of the Europeans. So I don't want none of y'all sisters saying that y'all ain't no African queens. You are African queen. You're my African queen. I don't know who queens you're not, but you definitely my queens. Somebody was saying the other day, want to call that European, which one it was Charles or Harry, one of them, want to call them, talking about some Prince, something. I said, who you talking about? Who you talking about? Well, Prince, I ain't got no Prince. Who you talking about? Who that is? And I'm like, well, that what they call it. Well, ain't none of your Prince. Shit, why you calling that? Calling them European, your Prince, Queen, King, Princess and stuff? Come on. How you gonna look in the mirror and call some European your Prince or your Princess or your Queen or your King? How you do that? I don't know how you do that. I don't. I know a lot of things I don't know how to do, but I cannot do that. I would have to be colorblind to do that. And Brother Malcolm X said a long time ago, it's almost impossible to walk beside that man down the street and don't realize that he's different than you. All people are the same. All people are not the same in no kind of way. In no kind of way that we are not the same. chemological, but not the same. They said this morning I was watching the news talking about they done got through testing the animals and now they finna start on the guinea pigs. And we are the first ones in line as the guinea pig. And then somebody sent me a link the other day. The European was on there talking about everybody gonna have to take this shot. And they gonna mark you. They know where you at all the time. They gonna have checkpoints set up. And if you don't apply to it, they gonna throw you on this bus and lock you up forever. You know, so I told y'all the other day, you need to go back and study Germany. You really need to study Hitler. You really need to look at it. Then all that you learn, then you need to look at the U.S. under Donald Trump or any other European, but especially under Donald Trump. Then you'll see that the U.S. moving fastly into state fascism, a controlled police state. People don't have no right. The government tell you everything to do. Or lock you away forever. The people's not going to stand for that. We must organize ourselves. Get ready to go to armed warfare if necessary. We said there's 3 different kinds of zones. You got liberated zone, where the people have overthrown their oppressor and took control of their own life. You have contestant zones, where the people are fighting against the imperialist, racist, Zionist governments to overthrow them into armed warfare if necessary. Then you have what you call enemy control zones, where the enemy is in control, deciding everything, controlling the people's lives. People ain't raising up, organizing to overthrow it. And they started pushing it. You know, enemy control zone. We must fight against the enemy control zone. That's the only way we're going to become a contestant zone. We must become a contestant zone. At this point in time, we're not a contestant zone in the U.S. I know most people, think Brother Malcolm said, it ain't the ballot that will be the bullet. So many people think it's going to be the ballot to vote them into freedom. Like we in Africa somewhere, that we can vote the Europeans out. And I'm talking about government. I ain't talking about color. I ain't talking about race. I'm talking about control over government. And that's what we have to look at. We need government. We need to be building government. And the only justified government that we can build is in Africa. We can't build no justified government on nobody else's land. What we going to do? Replace the European and take over the Indian land and continue to oppress the indigenous peoples on their own land? I know we would never could do that, could we? So we talking about building a government. Our government must be built at home in Africa. Then once we liberate and free Africa and build our government, you ain't got to worry about nobody touching you nowhere in the world. You will be respected everywhere in the world. You'll be just like, I'm talking about them Asians. You don't be finding them in jail. No. Why? Because they got to deal with China, Japan, or Vietnam. They got to deal with the government dealing with these people. So we ain't got no government, so ain't nobody to speak up for us. When Brother Malcolm was trying to get the OAU to come in the UN and talk about Africa, people in this country should be condemned and brought before the World Court against them for the treatment of African people. And we have to look at President Kwame Nkrumah spoke against it in the UN. We have to look at Mao Zedong was against it, verbally against it in the UN, United Nations. Other people done spoke on the behalf of African people. And those people there, the U.S. try to get you to hate. Don't like them. That's why we say historical materialism is very important. Because you don't know who your friends is, you don't know who your enemies is, you don't know what you're fighting for, you don't know what you're fighting against if you don't know nothing about historical materialism. You got to know something about historical materialism. You can't get it once you learn it. You got to keep it. You got to push it. You got to live by it. You got to be very progressive about our history. We're not playing. We talking about our lives. It's serious. My life, your life, all of our life is serious. And we must become serious about our lives. We must. How not? Africans, this is another day, but I'll be back tomorrow. Because I'm going to continue to talk about some subjects every day. And once we do get through with this subject here, that's the next thing I want to move into is dealing with um, development and undevelopment. How you decide what is development and what is not development. What is development for? How is development used? How can you measure development? Is it through technology or is it through human existence? So we'll talk about that once we get through with this subject here of dealing with theory of knowledge, historical materialism, and dialectical and historical materialism. Then after then we're gonna move into why is political education so necessary, and I bring some of the things I'm saying now is also will be related into that. So my 15 minutes is going down to 16. So love y'all Africans. Continue to talk positive about your people, positive about yourself. Before you say anything negative about our people, anything as an African, say anything negative about ourselves as a people, before you say anything, the first thing you need to do is shut up. You ain't for the people, you're against the people. Forward to the African Revolution.